Game of Thrones confirms one of the biggest theories about George R.R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire books, revealing that Jon Snow is the legitimate child of Lyanna Stark and Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. Despite the show initially introducing him as Ned Stark's bastard, Jon's parentage reveal in Game of Thrones confirms he's the true heir to the Iron Throne. And although this revelation doesn't lead to him claiming it at the end of Game of Thrones, it paints a totally different picture of characters like Lyanna and Rhaegar. Prior to Bran's vision in Game of Thrones Season 7, viewers are told that Rhaegar Targaryen abducted and raped Lyanna Stark. As Daenerys notes in Game of Thrones Season 8, it's not a depiction of her brother that adds up with all the great things people often say about him. And Jon's parentage twist proves that Rhaegar and Lyanna fell in love and were married, debunking these claims about Rhaegar. However, viewers may be left wondering how Rhaegar and Lyanna met before Game of Thrones, as their history is clearer in the books. Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen met at a tourney before Robert's rebellion. He crowned her the Queen of Love and Beauty at Harrenhal. Rhaegar Targaryen riding a horse and holding a sword during the tourney at Harrenhal from the World of Ice and Fire artwork for the World of Ice and Fire by Paolo Puggioni. Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen's history is outlined in Martin's books, which is one of the reasons L+R=J became such a huge Song of Ice and Fire theory over the years. Lyanna and Rhaegar's first meeting, in particular, gave readers reason to believe that the two were interested in one another romantically. Martin's books reveal that Rhaegar and Lyanna met at a huge tourney held at Harrenhal by Lord Walter Went. Rhaegar won the tourney, defeating multiple members of the King's Guard, including Sir Barristan Selmy and Sir Arthur Dayne as champion. Rhaegar named Lyanna Stark the Queen of Love and Beauty, a title initially held by Lord Walter Went's daughter, for whom the tournament was held. In A Game of Thrones, Ned recalls how Rhaegar placed a crown of blue roses in his sister's lap, a decision that shocked the lords and ladies in attendance. Their negative reaction stemmed from the fact that Rhaegar was already married to Elia Martell, as well as the fact that Lyanna was promised to Robert Baratheon. Martin writes Littlefinger mentions this to Sansa Stark during the show as well, but it's a conversation that may be forgotten by the time Game of Thrones reveals the truth about Jon in Season 7. In both iterations of the story, the couple meet at the tourney at Harrenhal. And one Song of Ice and Fire theory suggests that Lyanna may have competed in it as the Knight of the Laughing Tree as well. This would have given her more opportunities to interact with Rhaegar prior to them meeting again a year later, then running away together. Was Lyanna Stark the Knight of the Laughing Tree? This Song of Ice and Fire theory would add context to their romance. Young Lyanna Stark on Game of Thrones. In A Storm of Swords, Meera also tells Bran about the tourney at Harrenhal, but she focuses on a mysterious figure present at the event, the Knight of the Laughing Tree. According to Meera, the knight appeared during the second day of the tourney and was short of stature. The knight's ill-fitting armor was pieced together randomly, and his shield featured an image of a weirwood tree. He defeated 3 knights who bullied a Crannogman a day earlier, a man Lyanna Stark had gone out of her way to defend, then vanished before anyone could learn his true identity. While most people at the tourney assumed the Knight of the Laughing Tree was a man, the figure's height and shield have led readers to believe that Lyanna Stark was the one beneath the armor. We know from other characters' recollections of her that she had a lot in common with Arya, from her fiery and stubborn personality to her horse riding and fighting skills. If Martin confirms this theory in The Winds of Winter or A Dream of Spring, it may shed light on how well Lyanna and Rhaegar got to know one another during the tourney. Lyanna and Rhaegar's story was a huge factor in Robert's rebellion. Lyanna supposedly being abducted led to the conflict. Robert Baratheon drinking and looking impatient in Game of Thrones. Robert wasn't pleased with Rhaegar crowning Lyanna the Queen of Love and Beauty, and this set up his hatred of Rhaegar Targaryen, which only got worse when Lyanna disappeared with him. Lyanna and Rhaegar's relationship was a key contributor to Robert's rebellion, a conflict responsible for much of what followed in Game of Thrones. When Lyanna and Robert ran away together, Robert assumed that Rhaegar had forced his betrothed to go with him. Robert refused to believe Lyanna wanted to leave, as he was infatuated with her. Of course, Robert wasn't the only person who thought Lyanna had been kidnapped by Prince Rhaegar. Lyanna's father and brothers also believed she'd been abducted. This led Ned's brother, Brandon Stark, to travel to King's Landing and demand her return. He also wanted to see Rhaegar punished for the crimes he believed he had committed. Sadly, the Mad King arrested him instead of meeting his demands, then burned him alongside his father after calling Rickard Stark to court. In reality, the attack on the Starks was what really set Robert's rebellion in motion, but it all led back to Lyanna and Rhaegar's relationship. The name of the conflict also painted Robert Baratheon as one of its main leaders and heroes, and his actions were driven by jealousy and anger over Lyanna. But if Game of Thrones' Jon twist is the same as the blueprint for the books, Robert's rebellion was built on a lie. The history of Lyanna and Rhaegar was a lie, according to Game of Thrones. It's likely the case for A Song of Ice and Fire as well. Although Lyanna and Rhaegar's story started Robert's rebellion, the conflict was based on a lie, that Lyanna had been kidnapped by Rhaegar. Game of Thrones reveals that the two characters were in love with one another, with Rhaegar annulling his marriage to Princess Elia Martell before wedding Lyanna. A Song of Ice and Fire hasn't technically confirmed this, but it's likely to follow the same path as Jon's parentage reveal in the show. After all, the Game of Thrones showrunners correctly guessed who Jon Snow's mother was before Martin said yes to them adapting the series, via Collider. Martin has also dropped plenty of clues throughout the source material, all of which lay the foundation for the same Lyanna and Rhaegar reveal in A Song of Ice and Fire. Game of Thrones confirmed the truth of this theory early, proving that Robert's rebellion was, as Bran notes, built on a lie. Of course, given the Mad King's behavior leading up to it, it was probably necessary either way, but the truth makes Prince Rhaegar and Ned Stark look much better.